Hi, my name is Princess and you're watching Divine Duo. I'm just so happy to even be bringing this video to you guys today. Today, I'm going to be talking about how I passed the NCLEX. Yes, I passed the NCLEX, y'all. Not only am I going to be telling you guys how I studied, what I did to study, I'm going to give you guys 3 tips that I feel are going to be very helpful in passing the NCLEX. So yes, guys, if you're interested, stay tuned. Guys, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, we took our finals the first week of September. And from September to October the 5th, which is when I got my ATT code, I did not study a lick of anything. I didn't study anything. I was too busy party. I was lit. I was happy. I was rejoicing. I was not thinking about studying. I wasn't. Like, I was waiting for the ATT code and I was very, anxious about getting it, but I was not studying. And that's where I messed up. Because by the time I got my ATT code, I literally could have took it like that and just been probably been working by now. But because I waited so long, I had to go ahead and start studying again. I was a nerve wreck. So I went ahead and got UWorld, the 30-day UWorld. I just started doing questions. I also ended up renewing it because I wanted the assessment and I didn't realize that it didn't come with a 30-day one. So at the end of my 30 days, I still was like, I need to know. I just didn't feel like I had enough. I felt like I needed an assessment. So I went ahead and took another extra 30 days, and which came with an assessment. I decided to use that towards the end, probably the week that I wanted to take my NCLEX, so just so that I would be well prepared. So, and I would get a good idea of how I was doing, how I was studying, right? So let's talk about how much time I used studying. So that means that from October the 5th, and I ended up taking my NCLEX November the 23rd, that's how much time I used. So the whole of October and the whole of November, pretty much. The whole of October and the whole of November is what I used to study for NCLEX, so 2 months. And to be frank with you, I think a lot of people average at studying for 1 month. That first month, I kind of still was, trying to flex out my bones, and I wasn't really consistent. But once I started seeing what I was getting on UWorld, I said, wait a minute. Because when I started UWorld, I was getting I kid you not, my first one was a 48 or something like that. And I ain't gonna lie, it was a 48. And my highest score that I've ever gotten on UWorld ended up being, I want to say 68, which is above average. I think the average on UWorld is 58, and I heard that's the average on NCLEX as well, is 58. So I was rooting to get over 58. If I was going over 58, then I was feeling confident, And after the first month, I would say, I think I was getting over 58, but I wanted to push myself over, because the only way I was going to be confident going in to take that test was if I knew that I was above average, or something like that, I didn't just want to be on the cusp. Sorry guys, I have notes. I'm not trying to miss anything because this video is very important. So yeah, I had my test scheduled for November the 28th, and I felt so ready that I ended up pushing it to the 23rd because I was just getting so anxious, and I felt like what I know now, 1 week is not going to help me out. And on top of that, the 23rd was a Monday, and the 28th, which is my old test date, was a Saturday. And in between that smack dab was Thanksgiving. Come on now. I wasn't gonna get no studying done. So I was just like, let me just go ahead and take it on that Monday so that I can enjoy my holidays, enjoy my Thanksgiving, and not have to stress, which was the best decision ever because y'all already know I pass, period. Let's talk about a little bit more about UWorld. Guys, I'm going to be popping up pictures about what my UWorld looks like right now, like my pie and everything. So we started out receiving 2,194 questions on UWorld. 2194. That's the amount that they started out with. I ended up using, it doesn't show how many I used. It shows how many that are unused. My unused amount is 352. So let's round that to 400. And so that means that I did about, let's say That means I did more than 1,800 questions. Let me check that math just in case, because we got some people out there that's gonna be like, ah, you're a nurse and you don't know your math? I'm a nurse, ain't I? Just like I said, 1,842. That's how many questions that I did. And how did I achieve that? So I was taking 75 questions every morning. That's like literally it. I think I was doing 75 questions every morning, and I would just do that. And then I would watch some videos on YouTube from Simply Nurse or Simple Nurse. He's really good. I love the way he teaches. So I would just do that throughout the day, and then I would call it a night, literally. And I did see my score rise up a little bit. It was fluctuating back and forth, but nonetheless, it was increasing. So, you know, I was content. But once I got to the 30-day mark and, you know, I ended up renewing it, I'm like, no, I need to go harder, because I think at that point I was just getting like 58s. And so I ended up getting the Mark Klimek recordings, and I went ahead and started changing up the way I did UWorld. So instead of doing 75, because 75 is very draining, to keep doing 75 is very draining. And it's not even that it's discouraging, that's not the word. Draining is just the word. It just makes me tired. Like when I have to sit down and I know that I'm about to do 75, it's like, oh, like, you know, and then I start to rush at the end for no reason. Like, it was getting annoying. I knew that I was going to anticipate taking Mark Klimek, using the Mark Klimek recordings, but I decided to change up the UWorld first. There's 12 Mark Klimek recordings that I received, and I used that for the last 12 days before I took the test. Once again, I used that for the last 12 days before I took the test, because that's the kind of stuff that, like, when you have them in your head, like, it's just good to use. Like that man, oh my God, we ain't even gonna get to him yet. So I want to show you guys what my percentage looked like for all of my questions. So and that's one thing that they do that I feel like is very helpful. Of course, you won't know your head-on percentage unless you take all the questions, but I feel like I took enough to know, you know, a ballpark. So as you can see on my graph, I ended up having a 54.7 percentage. And honestly, I think mine was just probably a little bit higher before I ended up taking this one last test and just like dubbed it. But yeah, 54. And then at the bottom, you see that there's a bell curve. The bell curve shows you if you're above or below average. So the green line, you want to always be on the right side of the bell curve, because that means that your percentage is higher than average of everyone that's taking UWorld at the moment. So I went ahead and took my my assessment next. And when I took my assessment, the assessment has 100 questions. So you guys sit there for like the whole 100 questions. And I ended up getting a 62. When I got that 62, that made me feel good. That really helped like reassure me. Also with the assessment, after you're done taking that test, they're going to go ahead and tell you your weaknesses, your strengths, and all that jazz, so that you can go ahead and utilize it to focus on what you need to focus on. Things that I love about UWorld is that UWorld looks just like the NCLEX. It looks exactly like the NCLEX. The calculator looks the same. The phrasing is the same. The only thing that's different is that on NCLEX, you know how on nursing questions it says which nurse needs further teaching, or what does the nurse do that implies that she needs further teaching? Instead, it says, what did I say? If I find out what it says, I'm going to write it across the screen, but I really hope that I remember before I finish this video, because that threw me off a little bit. But as I kept going, I realized that their wording, it was so weird. It was like, what? When you come back for a, that's gonna blow mine. Okay, so how did I do my questions? At first, when I was doing the 75, I was doing it timed. And then I realized that my time wasn't the issue. So I would always do it timed. And then when I was done with the whole 75 questions, done with the test, I would go back and look at the rationale and then write down the ones that I feel like I keep getting wrong, or something that just seems like I should have known, you know what I mean? And stuff that I feel like are gonna keep reoccurring. So after I started doing the lesser questions, I decided to just Take away the time, don't do it timed. And I wasn't using Tutor Eater. I wasn't using Tutor Eater. I wasn't using Tutor either. I was just using just the questions, taking my time with it. And then as it came down to the last few days, if I was just gonna check, like, you know, do like 5 questions at a time or something like that, I would do Tutor so that I wouldn't have to go back and look at the rationale. I know a lot of people that like doing that, but I like to put myself in test mode if I'm gonna study. So that's why I chose not to do Tutor as much. But it definitely helps to save time if you don't want to go back at the end of the test. You know what I mean? I think that's everything about UWorld that there's need to know. It's easy to check up the pricing of UWorld. You just literally type in UWorld and they're gonna tell you the pricing. It is pricey, not even gonna lie, it's pricey, but it's definitely worth it. Next, let's talk about Mark Klimek. Oh my God, my love for Mark Klimek knows no bounds. If I could make him the godfather of my first child, I would do it. I wish I would do it. I got 12 lectures, like I said earlier. I used the 12 lectures for my last 12 days leading up to my NCLEX. See, when I tell you, he is just so smart, and he used to be a writer for the NCLEX, so he knows how the questions are presented. He knows what they look for, and he knows what ranges to really pay attention to, because we all know that we learn different ranges from different institutions, but he tells you what the range is. I really love his mnemonics, and I love the way he helps you to remember these things. He's not really fond of memorizing things, but he makes it in a way that, like, if you are gonna memorize, you memorize the least amount. That's gonna give you so much information. Oh my God. I speak up so highly of him because he is just very talented. Not only smart, just talented. He just knows how to teach, and he knows how to retain information. Like, he definitely helped me by far just as much as UWorld did. He definitely hits the nail on everything that you need to know. So let's get to the tips, what you came here for. The 3 tips that helped me to pass NCLEX. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, I definitely had to go up to 145 questions. I did not stop at 75 like I wanted to. And if you did not see my vlog, go ahead and check out my vlog, because it gave way more of a review of the NCLEX just fresh after taking it. And it also showed me getting my results, which was such a reassuring feeling. So, my 3 tips. Tip number 1, we already know that there's going to be a lot of prioritizing, right? There's going to be so much prioritizing. This is the thing that I've seen the most. The nurse is coming in for her morning shift, and she gets report on these 4 clients. Which client should she check first? Oh my God. My tip to you is knowing what takes priority. And I'm not just talking about ABC. You have to keep in mind ABC. This is all in one tip. You have to keep in mind ABC, chronic versus acute, and clinical manifestations versus complications or adverse effects. Now, I'm still in the first tip now, but let me go in depth about each of them. So, ABC, you need to know that ABC is obviously important: airway, breathing, circulation. Yes, it is important, but it's not important without the other 2, okay? Because let's talk about chronic versus acute. Now, let's talk about somebody with COPD versus somebody with appendicitis, right? You would think that because COPD has to do with A and B, airway and breathing, that they would take priority over someone that has appendicitis. But if they say someone with appendicitis who is awaiting surgery stop feeling pain, and then the person with COPD has shortness of breath when walking or on exertion, you're gonna choose a person that had appendicitis. Although, sorry guys, I had to change cameras because I should have recorded with this one all along. But anyway, so yeah, you're gonna go with someone with appendicitis that has an acute complication, rather than someone that has COPD that, like, you know, they've had all their lives. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's why it's important to know acute versus chronic. So now, that same situation can be used for the third one, which is a clinical manifestation, which is expected, and a complication, which is something that is probably adverse and you're not really expecting, and you know, should be attended to ASAP. So once again, yeah, appendicitis comes with pain, but if pain goes away, then you already know that that is a complication. Right? And COPD, if they have a shortness of breath on exertion, that's already a clinical manifestation. That's something that you're already going to expect. So those three is my first tip. Know those three. Yes, know your ABCs, but know ABCs with chronic versus acute. Know with clinical manifestation versus complication. Okay, let's go to tip number 2. Know what the question is asking you. I said the same thing for ATI. You really need to know what the question is asking you. Do not try and answer the question unless you know what it's asking you. And if you don't know what it's asking you, honestly, be true to yourself. Keep reading it until that time is going to be so much well spent, so much more well spent than you just trying to rush and answer the question. Know what the question is asking you, because there's only a certain amount of ways that they can ask you a question. And they have their way of, like, you know, repeating the way they ask questions with different information. So know what the question is asking you. Know what the question is asking. I feel like that's very important, because you can't answer the question. You might answer it wrong. So ask yourself, read the question, cross out one of the, just one. Cross out one. If you cross out 2, that's good. But sometimes I end up crossing out answers that are the answer. Like, and I hate when I do that, because it's just like, how? How? I should have made that my last one. How? So yes, go ahead and cross out as you go, but I say cross out 1 as you go. Read the question, cross out 1. Read the question again, cross out another one. When you're left with 2, hey, that's the one that can really like piss me off and get under my skin, because it's so hard when it's left with 2. One of them is obviously the answer. So that's when you just need to wager. You need to wager. You need to figure out, you know, which one makes this one more important than that one, right? So it would literally just be one thing. What organ are they talking about? You know what I mean? That's something that Marquette also said. What organ? You need to know which organs are more important than the others. Like, your heart is more important than like your bladder, right? So sometimes when you narrow it down to the last 2, you just got to choose, you know, which one deals with what organ, which one. Of course, you need to know your vitals, because you need to know which one are the vitals normal or are they not normal, you know? And that just goes so far when it comes to answering questions. Okay, so my last tip is the week before you take the test, I feel like you should do some form of detox. I'm not even gonna lie. For me, I did not have a lick of anything to sip on or drink alcohol-wise in that whole week, because anything that I retained, I wanted to keep in my head. I did not want to lose anything that I had studied. It all would have went for nothing. Like, you know, so I did not take anything to drink, and I ate very clean, and I drank a lot of water that week. Whatever detox, you know yourself. You know what makes yourself feel whole. So if you have to exercise that whole week, exercise that whole week. You know what I mean? Because you want your better self taking that test. You don't want just yourself. You want your better self taking that test. So you need to do a detox, do that detox. If you need to pray every morning, pray every morning. If you need to fast, fast. But make sure that it's your better self taking that test. Guys, I think that's everything that I have for you today. Guys, if you have any questions, please don't forget to leave those questions below, because I would love to answer them for you. The same way I passed, I want every single one of y'all to pass, you know? So if you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to join the PFP party, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye.